So how's business?
Business is very good.
Like the best you've seen it?
Like we're in the middle of a very strong cyclical demand cycle for, the products and services that we offer.
When you say we're in the middle, help us understand how long that means of a runway there is to go here.
Sure. At Equinix, we see a very significant trend from the training of models in the AI economy that you refer to in your opening there with the hyperscalers to the deployment of those models in enterprise systems. And that deployment is called inference. And we see that opportunity as potentially double the size of the training opportunity. And at our company, we feel we were built for this moment.
Has that happened faster than everybody anticipated? Because I do feel like the conversation, although we've been talking about AI now, almost 2.5 years, well into 2.5 years, but we are now increasingly talking about all of this stuff starting to be put to work.
Right. You can certainly see organizations, we have 10,000 customers across the world moving from proof of concepts into production systems and applications of the technology.
One of the things I think we're curious about is, as you know, the news flow is fast and furious from the White House and out of Washington. And there have been some announcements out of the Trump administration about AI infrastructure initiatives specifically. So I'm curious, Adaire, have you seen any impact of that on your existing properties leasing effort? And I'm curious how you compete with, how does that kind of compete their program with your own development program?
Look, we very much welcome the focus that the current administration has on data centers and the importance and the recognition of data centers and their important role in the infrastructure of any economy. And we certainly are looking at, some of the properties that have been, identified as potential for RFPs, and we would choose based on locations that would be accretive to our business, because we're very focused in cities, in metro areas, close to where humans are who will use this technology.
Are you getting pushback from cities and humans who don't necessarily want those data centers near them?
Not hugely. I mean, we're very conscious of the role that we play and, the role that we play with communities where we have data centers. And we're very considered about our approach there.
What makes a good location for a data center? Because it doesn't actually, apart from the construction, it doesn't actually involve that many people to keep it up and running relative to the amount of money that's spent on it and what actually happens in there.
Yeah, it's really interesting because I think, when you think about the operations of a data center, you tend in your mind to go immediately to technicians and technology. But actually, there's a whole series of unsung heroes in the operation of a data center, which are the craftsmen and the tradesmen and women, the plumbers, the electricians, the engineers, who basically keep the internet up and running, through this data center infrastructure.
So difficulties in finding those workers? We've done some reporting about that there's, okay, yay, great, the spend and the build, but there's not enough workers to do it.
So I think, the constraints that the industry are facing are around energy and power, around skilled workforce, and then into the supply chain for the equipment that's part and parcel of a data center.
But is that slowing the build that you guys are trying to do and meet that demand?
It is something that you have to actively manage as you are looking to build. For example, in our case, around some of our supply chain portfolio, we've pre-purchased in order to ensure that we can have the delivery dates that we need to bring capacity online.
We talked about the $344 billion that some of the world's largest tech companies are planning to spend when it comes to CapEx. It's like the thing we look for now quarterly when a company reports results. How much of hyperscalers' CapEx budgets actually flow through your company?
We have a very significant approach on a part of the data center industry that we call co-location, because not all data centers are the same. And so co-location is where enterprise customers, businesses, 60% of the Fortune 500, for instance, would locate their workloads or their machinery with us and in a shared facility. We have a JV structure that works with the hyperscalers to build to suit for the hyperscalers. And so that's how we service the hyperscaler opportunity and maintain that very important partnership that we have with them.
I guess we're trying to figure out your exposure. I think your top 10 customers represent about 16% of monthly recurring revenue. So your exposure to the hyperscalers is pretty big, right? Is it manageable?
It's manageable. The hyperscalers, for example, when they operate in our retail facilities, they do so because of the connectivity of Equinix. So that's going to be a requirement, for inferencing and for the actual activation of these AI workloads. So it is for us about connectivity. Connectivity is the secret sauce Equinix as a data center provider.
What do you mean specifically by that? Because I think we can use the word connectivity to mean a lot of different things, certainly in the business world. What does it mean specifically?
For us.
Yeah.
So in our world, it essentially means we're located in 273 data centers right across the planet. Inside those data centers, we have ecosystems of customers, customers whose value chains are connected to each other, and we physically connect them, literally interconnect those customers one to the other. That's the first part of interconnection. So that allows for low latency transactions to happen. Say, for example, on a trading floor, that allows for that to happen in real time.
Instant, yeah.
Right.